I like doing engagements from time to time, and I'm doing a wedding this spring. So kind of slowly adding other things to the mix. So I do photography part-time. I work full-time at the Houston SPCA down here. So I get to take photos of lots of animals and cute little creatures when I'm not taking pictures of people. So I am taking pictures most of the time, but on the side, I take pictures of people.
So what's funner, taking pictures of people or taking pictures of animals?
Oh, I have to say they're both equally fun and equally difficult, because when you're taking pictures of kids and dogs, you have to have something to make noise to get the noise.
I learned, like, if you call a dog, if you say puppy, whatever the dog's name is, Fido, instead of looking up, they come to you.
I know, it's very difficult. You need a lot more hands.
Yeah, dog whistle, bell, treats.
Yeah, a squeaker.
Yeah. Also for kids, squeaker toy.
Yes. Yep. Lots of similarities.
Yeah. And then Jennilyn is a good friend of mine. I've known her for like ever, like maybe a year or 2 or 5. I don't even know.
So, I don't know, maybe like the first 6 months.
Like I met her yesterday, but we're tight.
We're so tight.
So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we're going to go. We're going to do this.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm Jennilyn Proulx. I am a wedding photographer, but I do, kind of like what Jacquelyn was saying, like you trickle into other avenues as well. So like I just got done with a family shoot because, your wedding clients, they get married, they want someone to photograph when their babies come and when their family grows. And so you just start branching out to other things, but I still have that love of weddings as still my specialty and what I really concentrate on, because it's just what I love. I love weddings and I love love. And I think it's a whole lot easier to photograph a wedding than a newborn session, but I know Amber would disagree, but
newborn sessions are done in 3 hours tops.
Yeah.
Weddings, we won't talk about your life.
We won't talk about my most recent experience, but anyway, that's why we leave the important things to certain different photographers. Like that's what I do love about all of the communities that we have. Like we have these different specialties that we all have. We all have different personalities, different talents, different strengths. And that's what I love about like these critiques and things, is because we can take away different things from them every time. We learn something new, something that's not in our niche. So we can learn to explore and become better photographers from each other, from the community standpoint, lifting each other up. So yeah. I love doing this and I love being here.
Okay, well, we're going to start. I think everybody knows me, right?
No.
I mean,
we just met like 2 days ago, remember?
My name's Amber Russ. I actually, Two Color Photography, Baby Photo Academy, Cooley Collective Studios. Those are all my babies. I've been doing photography for 17 years, full-time for the last 12 probably. I don't even know anymore. I do specialize in newborns, but I do everything but weddings. You have to be the mayor's daughter for me to shoot your wedding. I just glanced over. I was like, I did do that wedding, but she's on my wall.
But you have to be
the mayor's daughter. I will not shoot your wedding unless you're famous. And in Brigham City, the mayor's daughter. That's about as cool as you get. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, and what we'll do is I'm just going to open up. So we just started at the top. This one is actually Allison's picture. She's probably the only one that I'm going to remember whose it is when I get to it. Maybe not. So Allison, if you want, you can like talk back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and let Jacquelyn start, and then we'll have Jennilyn talk a little bit about it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. And then you can talk with us too, Allison, if you would like.
All right. Awesome. I'm very excited to talk about this one. Can I just say, when I was taking photos at 16, they did not look like this. This is amazing. Let me just start off with that. And we were actually talking about this before everyone got here. Doing sports photos when you're used to portraits is very difficult. So I'm very impressed. My only thing is just the lighting on his face in uniform. I think some of the shadows could use bumping up a little bit to bring some of that detail back. But I think it looks really great. You caught some action. Another thing is, maybe composition, just include more, more of his feet. I think in sports, that's one of the more important things, is to just kind of include the whole body, depending on what, look and things you're going for. But in action, I would say just back up a little bit if you can. But yeah, I mean, it looks really great. I like the colors and the editing style a lot. And you captured everything really well with a high shutter speed, it looks like. So there's nothing that's blurry or anything like that. So I really like it a lot.
Good job. Thank you. Jennilyn.
Yeah, it is blurry in all the right places because you do have that nice bokeh effect in the background. And that is the hard thing too, like Jacquelyn mentioned about sports, like you're capturing something, you're not posing somebody, and the composition tends to be a little bit more difficult because you cannot control your situation as you can in a portrait session. But yeah, I would also agree with Jacquelyn that you would probably want to come out a little bit more, especially because you want to see all of the action happening. I would use the rule of thirds a little bit more. It's still on that third quadrant, but I would probably bring it in a little bit closer to the center as far as the rule of thirds go. But yeah, if you were to pull out that cropping just a little bit more, he probably would have been placed perfectly on that third line. But yeah, overall the editing's great. Nothing's blurry for movement. Everything's obviously just from aperture, and I think overall it looks great. Yeah, and also like Jacquelyn mentioned, maybe like bump up the shadows a little bit in your post-processing, but yeah, you can't control where the light's going on something that's, you know, sports action, photojournalistic kind of things. So overall, great shot. And yeah, Allison, she's, for being 16, she's great. I remember in the last critique, I still think of her Las Vegas temple portrait. It stands out to me. So definitely got a lot of talent moving forward and lots of things, like bright future ahead. Because all of us still have so much to learn. Like I've been doing this for 13, 14 years now, and I still learn so much every day, every year I advance. And so Allison, like you're going places for sure.
Really good start.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I think, and I was going to mention how hard it is to not blow so many highlights in a situation like this. And you didn't blow any highlights, maybe the whites on his shirt and stuff, but whatever. But to like control those highlights so that you can edit the shadows is really important, and you did really well at that. I'm really impressed. I might, as we talked about cropping, I might maybe crop from the top a little bit, but maybe just during this shooting is maybe just tip your camera down a little bit, and it would have grabbed his feet and cropped that top. But other than that, like I think it's awesome. I love that this guy's sitting here. You can just see, you can feel the game. Like you can totally feel
it tells a story still.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Good job. And that's my nephew Matthew, so
it's a family affair.
And I love, like, you can see in his face, like he probably struck that guy out. Yeah. And I don't even know sports, so that's a pretty good analogy for me. So there we go.
Except you do know softball.
I do know softball. I do know striking out because I did it a lot. My mom used to make me play sports, and I'm not a sportsy person. So yeah, good job, Allison. Do you have anything you want to say? Yeah, please.
Yes. Fun fact, I was too scared to edit it, so this is like fresh out of the camera. I didn't edit it at all. I was too scared.
Even better.
Yeah,
editing software has been really stupid the last time I've been. So I didn't want to ruin the picture, and I just kept it like this.
Oh, that's
okay,
awesome.
well, I mean, that's
even better.
Yeah.
Good job. I know one of the questions she talked about that we're going to hopefully approach with our YouTube channel is like free editing software that's actually still good. So we'll cover that a little bit, but because editing software is hard, and when you're 16, you don't want to have to pay for the Adobe Creative Cloud suite when you don't even have a job.
All the monthly subscriptions now instead of just buying it outright too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, good job, Allison. Okay, we're going to switch over to, the same quick keys don't work when you're on Zoom apparently. So I'm just going to do this. And I don't see this gal on here. I've never met her, but I know all you guys, and you're not her. So
deductive reasoning there.
Deductive reasoning, exactly. Jennilyn, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Obviously, I am not the newborn guru. So as far as posing goes, I won't talk about posing. I won't talk about anything of that nature, wraps, newborns. I don't do that. So we'll leave that to the pro Amber. But overall, I can talk about composition. I would say that the framing of this is also we need to come out a little bit because we're missing parts of the baby's head on the very top. We're missing a toe and then part of a foot and then some of the arm down there below. So if we would have pulled out, we've been able to see a lot more of the baby. I can tell, like, I like the editing a little bit, but also it is a little green to me, but the skin tones are still pretty good as far as that goes. And that's the other thing about editing. Editing can be so, you know, just your style and what you want to create. But I still think that no matter what kind of mood you want to create, it's important that we keep natural skin tones. So that's what I do like about this, is that the skin tones are pretty natural, even though it's not my personal editing style, what I prefer, but I love the fact that the skin tones are still intact, because no one wants to look like an Oompa Loompa, or or sometimes I know that for a while that we were going like the green craze and everyone looked a little like they didn't have blood in their face. But so I can definitely appreciate the fact that this, you know, we've retained skin tones even though it's a different editing style. So yeah, just my biggest gripe would just be the composition of the placement of the baby. And yeah, that's all I can speak for at the moment, but
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you. Jacquelyn.
All right. Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to color grading skin tones is just kind of the first thing it's so easy to mess up. So I think that we have this precious pink little baby. I think that's a win right there. I think I'll probably talk a little bit about focus. So what I'm kind of seeing is, I love a shallow depth of focus. That's just my favorite thing in the world. But I can see, I think what happened is I'm seeing most of the focus land on this knit blanket on the baby's belly. Like, that is so crisp and in focus, but I'm losing it on his eyes and facial features. So I can tell that was a really, really shallow depth of field there. So I think just adjusting that slightly will be a big improvement, because I love the colors that they went with and the textures and things. And so I think having that melt into a nice background will look really well, just to get the eyes just really tack sharp. So yeah, the editing style, I would probably boost some contrast and things like that. But I mean, the skin tone, it looks like the colors were kept true to life, which I do like, and it does look pretty bright. So that would be my point, is to just work on focus. And then we covered composition already. So, and I know you'll probably talk more about how to correct that with some posing. So.
Yeah. The first thing I noticed, and technically I guess he's not a newborn per se, I'm guessing he's like a month or two old, and that's the hardest age to photograph. Because
Really?
they can't sit up, they can't, like, you put them on their belly and they just face plant. It's such a hard, but there are still like your basic posing. As far as the first thing I noticed, are two big nostrils, you know, not big, normal size for a baby nostrils.
But they appear big when you're
right.
yes.
Exactly. My eyes go right to his nose. So standing even just a little bit above him, a little bit more, and shooting down from the top of his head. And I honestly would probably rotate it. And maybe we were supposed to. I don't know. Maybe not. That looks weird.
Yeah, go back.
Go back. Yeah, if you were to stand more at the top of his head and aim your camera down, just so you're avoiding the nose hole thing. And this age, like, you can't pose them. You just can't. Maybe I'm debating if you would try to maybe wrap them a little bit more, but then I think it just looks sloppy because they move and they're wiggling around. Yeah. My eye kind of goes also to his diaper showing there under his little diaper cover. I'm a huge stickler on diaper showing. I don't like diapers. But if he didn't have a diaper on, what would be showing is worse. So I'll take the diaper in this case. And then I wonder if there's a few little hot spots. It looks like a few little hot spots. The lighting looks okay. I don't see anything really wrong with the lighting, but yeah, cropping the hands, cropping the toes. I would have probably put him in a basket or lifted some little pillows above his head, because then it will help tuck his little chin in, and it makes him look like he's not just plank on a blanket, which I have a few of those in my repertoire. We call them baby plank. Yeah. So, but it's good. Like, I agree. The focus is on the blanket. But the color skin tone is perfect. It looks great. I think it just needs a little fine tuning on the composition and on his little posing a little bit. But good job approaching the hardest age to photograph for babies, because that's a really hard one. Okay. And then this one, I don't think he's on either. Jacquelyn, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. I love everything about this photo, basically. Yeah, her eyes just pop, and I think that's such a really big thing to accomplish in portrait photography. I think sometimes I know sometimes I lose out on that. I think the color, just the tones are so perfect. Her skin tone looks really great. The mustard, that's my favorite color for families to be done in. Just nothing looks too overdone to me. It's not overly saturated. It's not too bright. I just think it's really well balanced, but it still fits in with a lot of the trends I'm seeing, color and lighting wise. So I think it's really well balanced. Focus is great. Background is beautiful. I'm trying to look for anything that really sticks out to pull my focus away, and I can't really find anything. I just think my biggest positive critique is just the beautiful, just the rich coloring. I really enjoy a lot. So
yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Jennilyn.
Yeah, I would also agree. So when I mentioned before about editing trends, this is one of those moodier trends that we see, kind of like how Jacquelyn was starting to talk about. And they did the moodier, warmer trend without taking away from the skin tone. So I love that about this, is you're doing the thing that's trendy if you want to do that style, but you're retaining that good skin tone. So I love that. Everything is composition is great. Yes, the eyes are popping. I don't know if this is a lower res image. I am having a hard time finding where the sharpness is, where the focal point is on here. I don't know if maybe it is on one of the little flowers. It does seem a little soft, but it's kind of an overall softness. So I don't know if that was editing or if this might be a low res file. Is this a full-sized image maybe? I don't know. Or maybe my computer's just not.
Here's about 100%. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
File, but yeah, I do think the flowers have a lot of the focus. I think you're right.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah. So I don't know if the focal point is right on her eyes, but her eyes are just so captivating that you still get that first impression on the eyes, even though I don't think they're necessarily the sharpest focal point of this image, but they still, they catch you. She's got gorgeous eyes. So overall, I do think this is a really well done image. Lots of good things to celebrate here. Probably not a whole lot of critiquing other than just making sure the focus is always on the eyes. And it's hard when you have these different depths and you're using props, but overall, I think this is a beautifully done image.
Yeah, I love it. I love her eyes I just keep going back to her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Even I don't see them super sharp, but it draws you in. Yeah. It's amazing.
The whole thing, her skin tone, maybe one teeny tiny nitpick would just be that a little more room at the bottom. Her hand is just almost cropped off. It's not, but it almost is.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that it bothers me, but yeah, just a tiny bit more so you can just give her hand a little more room.
Yeah, especially since there's a lot of headroom and showing the background on top to kind of balance it out. I would probably pull that down too.
Yeah, but it's gorgeous. When I downloaded it from email, I was like, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah. I actually really like the empty space above her as well, because you do have so much going on the bottom. I like having that empty space.
Kind of balances it.
It rounds it out, makes your eyes go in circles. I always talk about that. Go in circles. Yep, go in circles.
Okay, let's see this one. Oh, this one, Kelly's in here. Oh, we're gonna do that. It's obviously, did I not download the full res? So Kelly.
I just say it looks a little. Yeah. It looks like low quality, but it's not
yeah. Oh, I've seen your work. Kelly is one of our one of our Baby Photo Academy course purchasers, members. I don't know what to call them, students. So yeah, I've seen her work, and so I wonder if when it emailed, or I don't know,
might have compressed.
Yeah. Who went first last time?
I think I went first on the last one.
Okay. So Jennilyn, do you want to start?
I'll go for it. Yeah. Initially, I think this is very well-rounded. So yeah, if you weren't at the last critique, you would know. I always talk about going in circles. Your eye wants to go around the photo to look at all of the different elements. And this does that for me. I go all the way around. It is kind of difficult. It's hard when you're opposing families too, and people are all like different heights and you're trying to make them all stack correctly. So the guy on the right, the far right, he does seem just a smidgen out of place, but also he doesn't. This is like a little enigma that I have going on with this photo. I don't know if I would have naturally put him there, but he fits there because he does round it out, but it does kind of create that empty space above the redheaded sister there. But overall, I think this is great. I love it. I love the composition. Everybody is in this little perfect square. And I know when you are taking these photos in these abandoned places, it is kind of tricky to make sure everything is super pretty, because it is a little distracting above that same boy on the far right. It is a little distracting, the window behind him or that door. But overall, like that's an easy, like quick clone job if this is one they wanted to print and put on their wall. So overall, they're framed in there very well. I would just be nitpicky about just having him on the end.
Or would you?
Like I said, it still brings you around. So I don't hate it. It's just, I don't know. He's just a little enigma.
I know, right? I call this my experiment pose.
Oh.
Because we did this like the day after Christmas, so it was freezing. And they didn't want to, like, normally I sit him on the ground or something and like in the weeds, but they didn't want to sit in the ground because it's freezing. And they didn't even want to sit on these cement stairs because it was freezing. But I made them sit on the stairs because I demanded it. But I know, right? So the problem was I had that guy on the right. You're right. He kind of bugs me. And I have gone back and forth with a love-hate relationship with this photo. And I really kind of wanted to tuck him back behind. It's actually his wife. The redheaded girl is his wife.
Okay.
And so I wanted to, otherwise I would have put him somewhere else, but I wanted to keep him with his wife. So I was going to lean him back against or put him behind there, but then he was too tall because those stairs, the way those stairs sit, then he was too tall. So I had to bring him down. So I'm curious, where would you have put him?
I know. Well, I was thinking that same thing in my mind. Like if you put him behind, then suddenly he's far too tall. This is one of those tricky things. Yeah, I would almost maybe try having him sit down there with her as well. Maybe that would have looked different. But then it's also, where are they bending? When they sit, how is their height? I don't know. It's tricky. But like I said, I don't hate it either because you do come back around. It's just an oddity. Like it feels out of place, but it also works so well. If that makes any sense at all.
No, it does, because I hated it at first. I was like, this is a crap. Why did I spend all this time posing this? And then I got it on my screen, like I pulled it up after the fact, and I was like, oh, I actually kind of like this.
If they had another member of their family that you can make, fill that space, it would be perfect. But yeah, obviously that's not always the case. You can't just throw in extra people.
I wonder if you have him take a knee behind her so that his right knee is kneeling on the cement behind her and he's kind of maybe not cradling her. That sounds weird. But like he could hug her. But yeah, I don't know, maybe something where it brings him down a little bit, but it also shows connection to the two of them a little bit more.
Yeah, or he could have crouched, perhaps, like crouched behind her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking too, like, because I've slid the three boys on the left over a titch, but then I did that, and then I had a crotch shot of Dad. Like I had Mom's head in Dad's crotch, which isn't what you want either.
To each their own.
I needed the sister to stand, like, do you know what I'm saying? Though I needed the sister to stand in front of Dad,
right?
So that, like, so I had some staggering. Anyway. Yeah, I go back and forth. That's why I was like, let's critique this. This one's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's the perfect one to critique. Like, don't send me your worst ones. Those are too easy to critique. Like, send me one like this.
The fun ones, the ones you have to think about. Like, what would you do? What could you do differently? And so that's what I love about this. I love learning from other people and other perspectives. Like, how would you pose this? How would you? But overall, I still think it's a great image. I still love it.
Jacquelyn.
Yeah. Okay. So like while you guys are talking, I'm like trying to move things around in my head. So this is kind of what I have landed on. So I would have had the guy in the red shirt to test this out. I don't know if this would look very good, but I would probably have him kind of sit and face his wife and maybe like pop a leg up onto the step and then have his front leg down, kind of casual, kind of like almost like cheating out a bit. and then take the 3 in the back and kind of move them over. I don't know if that would bring him then down too low, because I like that he keeps the balance up on that side. That's what they say. It's kind of an enigma. Like, it works. I don't know. That's one of those ones where the next
works,
time
but it's odd.
like, you just got to play around with them and see what, because I like that he rounds out that side, but I would probably have tried it with him sitting and facing his wife. Another thing that I would have done here is maybe like with this, it looks like that maybe they were going for a more traditional kind of like big family frame photo, but something that I like to do, especially if you have some of those holes that are awkward that you can't quite figure out what to do with, is to kind of have each person can interact with the people around them, maybe have, you know, 2 people holding hands, or a, you know, an elbow on a shoulder, kind of something to like bring some movement to it and have them kind of melt together, you know. And that's something that I would have done with him and the wife by sitting down, is have him somehow have an arm on her, or, you know, a hand, you know, something like that. That's something I would have kind of played around with this group, especially since they weren't comfortable sitting on the ground or the steps very much. If you have a group that's all standing up, I think that's a good way to add interest. Is to have them interact with each other and stuff. And I do that a lot with candid, you know, kind of candid poses. But with, you know, kind of traditional setups, I think it's an easy way to add a little bit more, you know, with them interacting with each other. So that's probably what I would have done. But I just like the different levels, and I love this location so much. It's so beautifully rustic, but still clean looking. I really like it, and the lighting's so bright. It's really, really beautiful. And yeah, I think the composition turned out really well. Definitely some kind of thoughts to try out for the next time you have a big family at the spot, though, because it's going to be kind of fun to test a whole bunch of them out.
Perfect.
Right, and they're all about the same height.
Yeah, as I say, my thought, I wonder, is that boy in the black, could you swap him with the cream? Because I'm losing mom's head.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
That was my only thought.
You probably.
Yeah, but only if they're the same height, because if he's any shorter and you move him to the shorter step, you're losing that.
Yep.
Right, and he's like a half a head taller or shorter than, like, because he's on like 2 steps up, right? But he's almost the same height as the boy in the cream. So if I switched him,
but then maybe they would triangle too. If he's taller than dad, they might triangle, and you could have. I don't know.
I don't know.
It was tricky, but I think you did well with what you had.
Yeah, it looks good, and mom's not going to notice what we're noticing.
No,
she's going to be like, "Oh my gosh, we're all smiling and looking at the camera." Check mark.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, it turned out really well.
Yeah. Okay, let's see this one, and he's not on. Who did we start with last? This is how my brain works. It
was me. I talked forever. I'm sorry. It's Jacquelyn's turn.
Jacquelyn.
Okay, I will start. So I can tell there was some kind of like off-camera flash here, and I do natural light, so I'm probably not the best to, you know, talk about the technicalities of that. I'm gonna hover on that background because I love the sun and the tree line. I think that's just a gorgeous addition to the photo. I think it adds some nice contrast. I would do something, I'm noticing her shadow on the front of the car, which I know with flash, so you want to fill that out. I do know that. So I would do some manipulations with the shadows, and then I would personally like to see the headlights come through brighter, to give a more, you know, kind of editorial look to the whole photo. And then I would probably crop the composition differently. I would probably get rid of a lot of that empty concrete space to the left, and then off to that right side where it's empty cement. So I would just kind of bring it in tighter to keep the focus on her and the dog in the car, because I think it's a really cute photo. So I would probably pull that in tighter, and
maybe
kind
like
of bring
that?
it in. Maybe like that, yeah. Maybe some more off of the bottom. Kind of play around with it a little bit.
We definitely don't want to lose that sun, but
no, we don't. It's really, really. I don't know if I would keep it I don't know if I would pull it out and keep it in the center more, because I don't mind some of the empty concrete to the side, because they kind of break it up with that grass over there. And then I'm seeing now that the grid is up that it's slightly crooked based on that wall in the back, you know. I would very slightly shift that. And then other than that,
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would work on.
Thank you. Jennilyn.
Yeah, I would agree. It is, I did notice initially, I am a horizon, like I have to have straight horizons. Sometimes it's okay to skew them a little bit, but where this is like a plane, like this isn't like natural movement, I would definitely skew that a little bit as well. This does look like it's one directional light. As far as your strobe goes, it looks like this probably was a strobe. I would probably say I probably would have exposed my background probably a little bit darker, because then you would bring a little bit more contrast in. And then it does look like we probably put a little too much power on the light. She does look like she is a little exposed a little bit more. But I do know that would also create a harsher shadow. So that shadow would also be harsher if you did do that. But it looks like, yeah, there's a little bit of highlight on her arm, which makes me wonder if in post he brought this back, like he brought light back into it, or, you know, exposure back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I like it. I do like the contrast of light. Yeah, I think if we would have exposed the background to be just a little bit darker and then had that fill light come in and not so bright, you know, kind of find this middle ground between your exposures. I think that would have been just perfect. But overall, I do like it. I like the composition of it. I love the dog. I love the expression of the dog. So, but and also too, when she's turning down and you are having this one directional light, and if you're not diffusing it completely, then she is going to get this weird little shadow on the side of her face, but then there's still a little hot spot on the tippy top of her left cheek there, our right, her left. So I would probably have just shifted her to look towards us a little bit more, or a little bit more the other way, so you had a complete shadow or you had a little bit of brightness on that side. But overall, I really like it. I am a sucker for off-camera flash. I love it. I love doing it. I love seeing it. So overall, I have a little soft spot in my heart for this, and I love the colors. I love the pop of her shoes, the car, the fun, because the shoes even match the sun too.
Good point. And her headlights in the car. That's pretty cool.
Yep. I love it. I think it's well-rounded as far as that goes.
So my one is the lighting. Like, we're looking for light patterns always, right?
Mm-hmm.
The triangle's there, but it's in the wrong spot. I keep pointing to the screen and you can't see me.
Use your cursor, Amber.
So here's the triangle, like almost, you know.
Yeah, that's where I was saying that little hot spot on her cheek.
So the triangle is good for, is it Rembrandt that has the little triangle? But it needs to be here, and it needs to be so that her head needs to tip in a little bit more. And yeah, so I would turn, like you said, turn her camera or
tilt her just a smidgen. Yeah.
Yes. So that we're just getting, or like you said, you can also have split lighting where half of it, but it's got to be one or the other. Like, we're not quite Rembrandt and we're not quite split lighting. We're just kind of like.
Yeah, and now that you're zoomed in, you can see that little hot spot on her nose too, and then on the tops of her arms, where I feel like this was fixed in post a little bit. I think the highlights were brought back in, and there's something soft going on her cheek. So maybe he head swapped her a little bit, because they're on this jaw line. There's there's a lot of softness going on now that I see that we're zoomed in here.
Yeah, that's true. Like hair, maybe. Something.
Yeah, we fixed hair, head swapped, or probably a hair fix, probably with that. Yeah, but you lose that sharp line. But when you're zoomed out, that's the hard thing. Like, if you're cropping in, you're going to start noticing that. But sometimes you don't want to get too picky if you're going to be far back anyway.
Yeah, nobody's going to stare at that.
Yeah, no. Just because you were zoomed in so far, I noticed that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I know the location, so it makes it even a little bit more. That's the Brigham City Temple here.
Really?
The parking garage at the Brigham City Temple. So it's kind of cool. And I love that he didn't make it look like a parking garage.
No, I had no clue.
Yeah, like it's not the prettiest parking garage. So we did a really good job disguising the fact that it was a parking garage. It looks really nice. He did a good job. I can't even see the lines, like the parking. And maybe he edited those out, because I don't see the parking lines and stuff. So I'm very impressed that it doesn't look like a parking garage. So, okay.
No, I'm all like leaning in real close. Sorry.
Back off. Okay, and this one, I don't think she's on either. Is it okay if I start on this one since it's a little newborn?
Yeah, go for it. You know all the things.
I know all the things just right now, all the things. I can quit and be done, and because I've learned it all. So obviously, and she actually had a couple questions about it when she submitted it. So she talked about the background and how to, you know, smooth out those wrinkles. I'm a really big believer in not leaving things to post. So I'm the type that would clamp that to whatever stands I've got going on, and I would clamp on each side, because even if it just took 2 minutes, which it would only take about 2 minutes to fix it. If you're shooting a session every day and 20 images per session that you're having to edit, that's a lot of your life that you're giving up. So I would have just pulled it tight, but there is a way. Photoshop has a really cool, I don't know what, let's try it. I don't know what will happen. You can actually select a subject. It might try to select the baby. Oh, not too bad. Look at that.
Yeah.
So you can select your subject. There's other little fine tunes I would do. I wouldn't just go based off of this, but you can select your subject and then paint in the background a little bit. I also wonder, it's almost like it's a little hazy. Like it just needs a little bit of some haze correction, but so the wrap, obviously as a newborn photographer, my eyes go to the wrap. Those kind of wraps, I can tell right now, it's not a long, narrow, thin one. I usually wrap with long, skinny ones. So, and I'm not saying you can't use them, but I usually do a double wrap in this case. So I do a stretchy wrap and I get them all snuggled in right. And then you can take these bigger wraps and be a lot less worried about making sure it's tucking in the arms and making sure, because then you're just kind of gently wrapping it around and building the shape you want out of your wrap. The pose is good. I would actually tip his head down just a tiny bit because we've got the nostril shot again. Her lighting, I can tell that she's probably using a window lighting. But then I'm looking at the light in her eyes, kind of shows you where the light is a little bit. So probably a window light to her side here, but it's controlled pretty good. The hot spots aren't too bad, maybe a little bit here in her hair, but it's controlled pretty good. So yeah, I would clean it up. I would bump the contrast a little bit and then run a dehaze. I don't know, it's the same as kind of a sharpening, but run a little dehaze on it and see if you can just make it pop a little bit more. But other than that,
dreamy, Amber. It
is dreamy. It is, and it's beautiful. Like, look at his hair.
No, it is. It is dreamy.
Like, do you just want to like kiss his little lips? And I love how close together they are. Like, it's really good. I would just clean up the wrap a little bit and go from there. So Mike Goetz just entered the room. Can I go back to his image? That's the one we were just at. Mike, you just missed it. So we're just going to like summarize. I don't remember who we started with though.
We start with Jacquelyn.
All right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I was kind of talking about cropping and composition. I think I would pull it tighter in to get rid of some of that concrete at the front. But we all just talked about how beautiful that lighting is in the back. I mean, my gosh, I think seeing a combination of this off-camera lighting with that beautiful sunset, it was very unique to me. I really like it. And the posing of her with the dog is really good. What else did we kind of talk about? Just kind of working on some of those shadows behind her and on her face and that little hot spot, just some lighting corrections and stuff there. You guys know more about the, technicalities of that. So I'll kind of leave that to you. But yeah, I think for me, a big thing, since the focus and everything was already really great, I would just kind of recompose it with some different cropping.
Perfect. Miss Jennilyn.
I'm trying to remember what I said. But overall, that I did agree with Jacquelyn overall. And I would just, if this is me personally, I probably would have exposed the background. So the background was a little darker first, and that my fill light wasn't going to be so harsh. Fill light seemed to be a little bit more overpowering, but the loneliness due to COVID.
I like that. See, now it makes like a little bit more sense.
That is true.
I
COVID
should have
was lonely.
required a title because you could have titled this and then we would have been like, oh yeah.
It totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that we did talk about was just skewing the horizon line, because where you do have a straight horizon line, to skew it so that it is completely straight. Because it does look, I actually saw it more on the car than the actual wall, but when you do have the wall comparing to the car, no, you can see.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about the lighting pattern on her face a little. Yeah. Maybe just turning her head into the light, just so that we either get like a Rembrandt lighting or, I'm embarrassed. Am I saying the right one? Is it loop lighting's under the nose, Rembrandt lighting is the triangle? I got it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like our triangle's just a little bit in the wrong space. So maybe bringing her head towards the camera a little bit would give you loop lighting, or
you
Rembrandt lighting, or pulling it like farther away and giving her like a split lighting might even be super dramatic and fit your theme a little bit too.
Yeah. And you could always take a little patch tool and like select that and take it back into the shadow, but then again, her lid's still going to be light and that probably won't make a whole lot of sense either.
Yeah.
But no, overall, I really like it. I just think you could boost the contrast if the exposures were just a little bit different on the light versus the background.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it.
Really cool. Yeah, we liked it. It was a good shot. Okay, so Jennilyn, are you next? Yeah, Jennilyn.
Sure. No, I agree with everything you said. There is a softness here. It does look dreamy, but it's almost too dreamy. You want something to grab your attention. You want her eyes to grab your attention, or maybe his little pout to bring your attention to it. And then as far as like, I know sometimes when you're doing your backdrops, you don't always have the capability of stretching that tight. So something you can do is bring your subject closer to you and make that there more of a distance between your backdrop and your subject. Or you can also use more of a zoom lens. Like I love shooting with my 70-200 in the studio, because then my seamless backdrop really blends in very well, and any wrinkles or imperfections in the backdrop, you can't see them. It just kind of blurs right out. So I actually love shooting with a zoom. But I know this might be in her home, obviously, where we're talking about the window light. So I know that might not be a possibility, but just some other tricks of the trade where you can kind of hide those imperfections so you don't have to work so much in post.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Jacquelyn.
All right. Yeah, I agree. I would probably move her forward off of that backdrop a little bit. But when it comes to correcting it in post, I mean, you could so easily paint over that, given that it's white. I mean, that's just so, that makes things a lot easier, I think. And I really wouldn't go so far as to make it completely imperfect, because I do think it is kind of dreamy, reminds me of a cloud. And I think the lighting is so natural that I think having a stark white backdrop wouldn't really fit the tone of the image. So I would leave some of those natural shadows here and there and just kind of clean it up a bit. But yeah, I agree. I think it could use some contrast and texture, just because it is overall a very bright image, just to kind of bring some bit more visual interest is the only thing that I would do. I like the soft window lighting a lot, but I would just kind of drag some of those shadows down a bit, kind of watching it, because you don't want to lose her eyes behind her hair or her eyelashes or anything like that. Because they do pop really well as is. I would watch out for losing some of the details in her face, and the baby's cute, adorable little face. It's so cute. His hair is so perfect. Yeah, I really like it. I would just add some extra texture to it to kind of make her pop a bit more. But other than that, yeah. I really like the general tone of the image.
Well, and when you mention it, I enjoy this side of the wrinkles because it looks like a curtain, like, yeah. Just like she's standing in front of a curtain.
Yeah.
Compared maybe like these. So pulling her away from the backdrop would maybe minimize these, and you would still probably get a little bit of this curtain-y.
The little ripple, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I like that. Good job. Good job, team. Oh, this baby.
I love it.
So look at that chunk. Rachel's. She's in the group right now. She was the one making dinner, probably on this very stove.
Yes.
So let's see, Jacquelyn, right? You're first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we drooled over this one for a few minutes earlier, not just because there's butter in it. This is just so, so cute. I really like the tone, and it's got a good amount of saturation. It really pops well. The colors are really rich. I like everything kind of from that side of things. What we had just talked about was just maybe fading the background out a bit more, letting that be a little bit darker to keep the focus forward, and just maybe add a bit of lighting, extra lighting on the baby's face, just to have him pop off the background a little bit more, because all of those colors really keep your focus up front from the gray and the white in the background. But I would just add just a bit more of a pop, bring those highlights up, paint a little bit more light on him, and then just let the background maybe add a bit more darkness back there, just to kind of bring him up, bring him all forward. Just that, I think it needs a extra little nudge up to the front, but I think it's overall, I mean, the way he's holding the whisk, the composition of all the props, I mean, it is just, it's perfect. It looks really, really beautiful. And Kai loves spending time with you. It's just amazing.
We're all like, oh.
You know?
Oh, I love it. Okay, Jennilyn.
It is super cute. And I do love the composition of the way that everything turned out. Like the props are actually all placed very well. It's very pleasing, aesthetically pleasing. And then once again, you're rounding out and it's great. But then, yeah, just like Jacquelyn mentioned, when I'm going around though, I do stop in that top right corner. But obviously that's, you know, you're shooting an environment too, and sometimes you just can't help that. So that's something that I would probably work on in post, is just because it's so bright there in that top right corner. I don't mind the background so much. Like I don't necessarily need it to be darker. It's just that right corner just pops out a little bit. But I love the placement of everything. It looks so cute. I agree. I'd probably put a little bit more light on his face. And it looks like there's window light to that left side. So maybe I would have turned him the other direction. Maybe that would have helped a little bit to bring that light on his face, but overall it's super, super cute. Just, yeah, there needs to just be a little bit of brightness on that face. And then there is one distraction that I do see, like the little reflection inside the Red Bull. I would probably just clone that out. But overall, this is freaking adorable. Well done.
Like, we just want to pinch his thighs.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like so cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah. And I was impressed at like the control of that window light, because even here in the jar, you're not blowing out your jar, which is kind of hard when you've got window light that you really, you know, you can't pull him any farther away. You can't pull the jar. It's pretty much stuck with your environment. So you controlled your highlights really well. I just see this little peak of, oh, my words are gone.
Like a light switch.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and then I would maybe just rotate it a little bit. The bottom of the counter is just a little not straight, but like not anything you notice, because my eyes are like this baby's face. Like,
yeah, and then there's a lot of props going on too.
Yeah. So my eyes definitely don't go down here and get stuck down here. It doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, it might bother me more if this were, and I think your horizon here is okay. So maybe don't. Because this is more of your dominant line here than here.
Yeah, you're not caring about the bottom.
Yeah, so
or you could even crop it so that you're down at the bottom of that. But then I don't know, then you're losing the jar, and then you'd lose the pie. Make it more of a piano.
Yeah, it is so cute. Yeah, I would just put a little bit of light in his face. Other than that, like, it's so cute. Yeah, bringing down this over here, but it's beautiful. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's so cute. You could maybe even take a little dodge tool and just brighten up the one side of his face too.
Yeah, like right just in here a little bit.
Yeah, just on that one side. Because there's great light. That light, the reflection, that catch light in that his right eye, our left. Like there's that catch light in that eye. That's perfect. And I just want that catch light to match the other eye. But other than that, I think it was so cute.
I just have to say, like, the prop selection is so perfect. All the colors go so well together. And given that, you're working with such a variety of surfaces and there's no bright hot spots other than that reflection in that bowl. I mean, it's so well controlled. And it just looks incredible. And I know you said you just kind of do this, with your kiddos and stuff, but I mean, I don't know about where you guys live, but people would go crazy for this in my neighborhood. I mean, my gosh, you are onto something here. Yeah, it's really, really precious. And it's just composed perfectly.
And I had a comment about the props. What I really like about this is that there are a lot of props, yet the baby does not get lost in them. So it's a really good balance.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because you do see a lot of proppy shots where it's your eyes are like, where is the subject? And your eyes go straight to his little chubby face and his
Just
thighs. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not overwhelmed. Even the pie loves spending time with you. It's an accent. Like my eye doesn't go to it. It's just
not
like
the focus of them.
Yeah. That's a good point. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, super cute. This one. This one. I know. Jamie's in here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
So cute.
Yeah, this one's Jamie's. And oh my gosh, as I opened it and I was like, the colors and oh, my heart just went, oh.
Yes.
So there's just like a few tiny little things. There's the little blown highlights here on her shoulder and her belly and her little cheeks. Her eyelashes, oh my gosh, like
Perfection.
as I zoom in, I know I'm like, oh, babies. Why do not everybody love babies? And then I love when their elbow is over their knee. So I would just push her little butt just a tiny bit more so it's tucked underneath their elbow. And other than that, like that's a gorgeous shot. Maybe just bringing down the highlights a little bit. What lighting are you using on these?
So I've struggled a little bit. I use an Einstein with I had an 86-inch PLM, double diffused, and I actually just got a 64-inch PLM because my space is so tiny and the 86 was gigantic.
Yeah, it's huge.
I like the 64. This was with the 86, but I'm liking the 64 better. I still double diffuse and still have problems with my highlights. And so I don't know. I'm trying to figure out.
What power are you shooting?
Pretty much the lowest power that the Einstein will go. So.
Interesting. Yeah, because it does. And you
I know you said that you shoot at f4, right, Amber?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I shoot a lot more open than that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot more wide. So I could stop down and see what that gives me. I just haven't been impressed with.
I think stopping down would just give you darkness all over. That's right. The struggle is it's perfect everywhere else.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But
maybe if you have room to pull the light just away, maybe even just a little bit pulling it away, it won't darken the back too much, but it would just take off that initial reflection, that hot spot reflection off those main points.
That's a good idea.
Is there room to pull your light back just slightly?
Not currently, but
yes, I know you mentioned it was a tight space, but
I shoot in my front room right now. So, but I have a studio space that hopefully will be done in the next month or two. So, hopefully, fingers crossed.
It's beautiful though. Jacquelyn, do you want to say anything?
I mean, gosh, what is there left to say? That as I would say, it's just gorgeous. And I'm not usually one for like busy patterns and stuff, but this just works so beautifully with her little outfit. I don't know if you like coordinated or like, I don't know how that worked, but it just matches gorgeously. And I love the the blush with the deep maroon. It just looks, I mean, it's so beautifully shot. Like I said, I'm not an expert with the newborn photos, but I just think this is one of those photos that her parents will frame and keep on their on their wall forever and ever.
This one needs to go on your studio wall when you get your studio. This is
one of them. Absolutely. That's the only thing. I'm trying to think of what I would do in this scenario if I was, trying to finagle some lighting. It can't hurt to try maybe, bringing down your other settings and just seeing, exposing for those hot spots and then brightening everything else up. I mean, it's worth a shot, if you have extra time, the next time you shoot to take a couple of test shots and mess around with them later. That's probably what I would do. Is just, I like to shoot wide open too, so I wouldn't mess with that because it's working really, really well. But I would maybe bring down ISO or bump up the shutter speed and just kind of see how it looks, if it affects your style at all. But I mean, if you're moving into studio soon, it won't be an issue then. So I think it's just beautiful. The color scheme, the posing, everything looks really great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I don't know that I would have put those colors together, but they're beautiful. Like I wouldn't have thought, yeah, burgundy and mauve, or I don't even know what that color is, but they're beautiful together. I was going to say on your other one, she submitted a couple. I don't know that I noticed hot spots on the other ones. Is maybe just this baby?
I've struggled pretty much with every baby. I think the other ones I submitted, I usually shoot on dark colors. And so maybe just because of my preference. So I don't know if that's what's giving me trouble with my lighting.
I'm going to pull up one of her other ones because it was really cute. Right?
Sorry. That just came out so cute.
I need to learn how to pose babies like this, so that's good. That's a good pose.
Yeah.
Lots of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do agree the white probably helped because the light is probably bouncing around the white fabric, and darker fabrics tend to eat up your light a little bit. So maybe that's why, but this one is absolutely, as a matter of fact, that's kind of why I picked the other one, because it gave us something to critique.
This was perfect.
Yeah, I don't know much to critique about this.
I probably would have just tried to get her little foot stacked, but some babies just won't do that at all.
Right.
But yeah, that's why I kind of picked the other one, as I did want to have something to critique about it. But and it might, maybe it's just the darker fabric. I don't know.
This is so
Maybe.
creepy.
I don't know. I've tried a few different things to play around. I even turned around my PLM and tried shooting through for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that better, but I don't have the space. Like it's encroaching in my shooting space, and I don't like it.
And when I shoot straight through the umbrella, I can't tilt my angle down right because it hits the leg of my light stand. So
yeah,
I almost have to shoot diffuse through bounce. So, and I did just buy all of my course. She's a course member, and she's going to go back and be like, you said I just bought the PLM 86 like a week and a half ago. So yeah, all of my course lies. I used to shoot with a 30x60 softbox, and I still do sometimes, but I really am enjoying the softness of the light of the other one. And I'm not sure who just joined. I don't know, but we're going to hop to this one. Somebody just joined the group, and it just says iPhone. So I don't know who it is. Is this your image by chance? Well, we're just going to keep going then. Who's next to be first? Is it Jennilyn?
Maybe. I have a hard time going first on these newborns because I don't know about the posing and the things. So I can tell you from an uneducated standpoint that I think this is
give us your education on lighting and stuff, because that's universal.
Yeah, that is universal. I do like the lighting on this. I do like it's very soft. I like the editing, the matted look on the edit too. It keeps it very soft. I don't know if there's a point on the baby's face though that is that there's a strong focal point. I feel like the focal point goes on to that fabric, that perfectly folded fabric. I feel like Amber's gonna like that. I don't know. Maybe she's gonna have something to say about the fabric, but I think that the wrap is so beautiful, and the hat, I don't know. I really like the lighting on that too. It's very soft, but then you also have shadows, which is giving your depth.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Me too.
Hey, Jacquelyn.
Okay, so yeah, we talked for a while about this. My biggest critique for this one is it's so beautiful. If you add just an ounce of contrast, I think you did it before, if you want to throw that in there again.
Yeah, I can do
it. It just kind of adds an extra oomph to it that I really like. And it just, I don't know, I really like it. And I think it does come down to a matter of style, but I just like that extra texture that gives, because you're playing with a ton of really beautiful ones in this photo that I really want to give them some focus. Because usually, you want the baby to pop out, but since it's a darker background with a richly colored blanket, I think adding some texture and focus doesn't necessarily take it off of the baby. He still pops out even when you add some of that texture back in. I just think it's so beautiful. I love the little wooden animals, and I want that blanket for myself. It's so gorgeous. The only thing that I would maybe do is
yeah, it's mustard.
I think I actually like that the line, like the plank lines, aren't parallel to the bed. I like that adds some interest. My only rotation I would add is maybe to line up the like the head and footboard of the little bed. I would probably twist it so that those were parallel with the top and bottom of the image. That's the only thing, and I think that does also come down to style choice as well, but for me, I would probably have the bed square in the you know, following the edge of the photo. But yeah, I think that extra little bit of contrast just makes it perfect.
Oh, see, I like it twisted still.
Yeah,
I like them going away from each other. I like breaking the rules on this one.
That's kind of what I kind of agree. I think it was a style decision. I do like it. I think if there were more room, I think when you twist it, you lose some of that breathing. If there was more room to work with, I think that may have worked. But yeah, details. Amber mentioned that little knot up in the edge. I would just get rid of that little spot of black. But yeah, I just think all the textures and the lighting make this such a cozy, beautiful photo.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to hop in and discuss the pose. No, it's really good. It really is. There's just a few little like fine tuning that I would do right here under his butt.
Is it the foot? Oh, I was trying to guess.
Incorrect. Wrong. His foot too, but we're going to start on his butt and work our way to his head.
That is one thing that popped out to me later as we were watching. I was like, yeah, oh, that's clearly a foot.
Yep, right there. And even this, like, it's just like the bunching fabric. You would just push your little hands in there. But I have the secret that will actually make it so you probably wouldn't even notice, honestly. And then, yeah, the little foot, I'll tell you the secret in a second. Right in here, I would just pull that fabric a little snug. I love this wraparound. I love that it's not just your standard wrap that you see everybody do. So I love that you've kind of taken that little extra wraparound. Again, like I am such a stickler on nose holes. So shooting where I can see his little nose holes. So here's the trick. If I stand above his head and I'm shooting, I hate that I can't show what I'm doing on my screen. But standing here and shooting down, you would lose this bunching because it would bring your focus up here, and this would be hidden underneath the new angle that you've created. So you would lose this, you would lose the nose holes, and then you would just, your focus would be more on the baby's face. Because then you would, if you're shooting wide open, which it looks like maybe not quite wide open, I would say maybe a 4 on this, I don't know. But it would draw all the focus right to that eye. It would make your camera easier, and you wouldn't be focusing on the blanket, because I think Jennilyn's right. The focus is here and not as much here.
But having that matte edit kind of helps mask that too.
Yeah.
That's another thing I liked about having the matte. When you did the contrast, it kind of took away the matte. Mm-hmm. And then I could start seeing things again. So the matte was kind of nice to
disguise all that.
Disguise it a little bit.
Yeah. Whenever I shoot newborns, especially above them, I make sure I'm shooting above their head and down, because then you lose a little bit of focus. You're focusing on your eyes. You lose that. You soften it as you go down, and then you lose the little butt pouch, which almost every wrap you're going to have a little butt pouch, because somewhere that fabric has to go somewhere. And then pulling this little bit here, just tugging that little wrap so that you don't have the wrinkles here. And other than that, yeah, I love it. I would just come in and probably just lose the black in the knot. So you still have the knot, but you lose that piece that takes your eye away. But other than that, it's really great. I really love it. It turned out really cute. I love little animals. I love the color that it kind of matches the tones, the whole thing. Just really cute. Yeah. And I think, guys, that's it. Because then we go to this girl. But we cheated. She got two images, but that's beautiful. I love that. So yeah, that's it. Are there any comments, or anybody want to ask questions or say anything?
I think you have everybody muted.
They can unmute themselves if they
unmute themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know how this works. We've had a year of a pandemic and I still don't even know how
I
this
know,
works.
get with the program.
I'm so outdated.
I have a question that I
Yeah.
can ask. So when I was going through my wedding pictures, temples are beautiful. LDS temples are beautiful. However, there's a lot of lines. I know. I know.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. Okay, so I have my stair lines. I have my pillar lines. And then I have lines in the building. And I can straighten 2 out of the 3, but not all 3, because I think there's some distortion. There's some line distortion on my lens
distortion, yeah.
for my picture, lens distortion. So my question is, and we were kind of talking about this with that baby picture, because the counter was not straight, but the bottom counter wasn't straight, but the top counter was straight. So on those, like, do I straighten the lines on the buildings, or do I go for the most straight lines, or do I straighten the most obvious lines? Because it's all just a freaking lot of lines.
Yes.
Yeah, I know rule of thumb I've heard in the past. I'm beating you.
I was gonna say, do you want to talk about this ever, or like?
Actually, we should let Jennilyn talk about it because she's the wedding photographer. So run away with it.
Oh, you're good. Well, I would definitely do the most dominant lines. It depends, because like if you're doing a portrait style image, the stairs are gonna, like, especially at the Salt Lake Temple, because architecturally that's not perfect. It's not necessarily even lens distortion. Like the architecture is off because the stairs do sweep this way on both sides. It's different on each side of the Salt Lake Temple. Okay. So if you're going for a portrait image, I would do the stairs and not worry so much about the walls. So the stairs are going to be your more dominant horizon line that you're looking at. If you're doing a vertical, if you're doing a portrait style, oh yeah, I said portrait before. That was landscape. If you're doing portrait style, sorry, up and down. So if you're doing portrait style, then I would start focusing more on the walls and like let everyone else see that the stairs flow a different direction. It's very subtle and it's hard, but your more dominant lines are going to be those vertical lines on your portraits, and then the horizon is going to be more on your portrait style. So I would just go on your dominant, like where your eye goes first. And then if there is that sometimes there are those 3 different lines, and the 2 that are most dominant, I would just kind of skew them slightly together. Like they don't have to be perfect, but if you skew them just towards each other, then they start to even themselves out. It's an illusion. But then when you put a grid on your photo, you're like, oh, neither one of those are straight. But if you bring them both together, the illusion happens that it's straight. Does that make any sense? Sorry,
So
I really rambled on that. I apologize.
No, it's okay. So my thought was, so I straightened it, and their feet are now straight. The stairs are now straight. The pillars are now pretty much straight. But the lines in the background, because they're standing on stairs, and the temple's in the background, like way behind them. Okay. And those lines are not straight. So the lines that are going through their heads are not straight, but the pillars and their feet and the stairs they're standing by are straight.
Yeah, in that situation, I would try to skew right in between all those lines.
Really? Okay.
Just kind of play with it.
All right, I'm just curious.
Play with it. Yeah, you'd have to show me an example too.
I'm playing with it.
So Kelly's from Idaho. What is it? An Idaho temple, or is it?
Yeah, it's the Meridian Temple. It's kind of a big box temple, and it's really boxy. And it's pretty, but it's boxy with lots of lines.
Yeah,
boxy, lots of lines. Like.
I would just play with it and kind of skew what looks general, because once you put the grid on it, then yes, you're going to see everything is off and weird. So I would just kind of skew in between the different lines and then kind of go from there. Play with it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Right.
Or Jacquelyn, do you have anything to add? Sorry.
No, I was just looking at it and I can totally see the challenge there. Yeah, I think
What, you pulled up the Meridian Temple?
yeah, I was like, now I gotta see it. Yeah, that's a lot of lines.
I've never
There's a
seen it.
lot
I
of
might
lines
have to
in
pull
there.
it up too.
We're all suddenly Googling.
Now I gotta see it. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a beautiful location. I mean,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
yeah,
It's
I
just,
agree. I agree. Kind of playing into the middle, especially if adjusting one is just going to throw the other two out of whack. I mean, I agree. I agree with everything Jennilyn said.
Here,
For
should
sure.
I show it? I don't know if
Oh
I
yeah,
can.
because now you
Yeah.
have like landscape lines too. Because you did mention that it was like you're in the foreground and the temple's in the background. So you probably have landscaping going along this as well, don't you?
That's
and
probably
then I
one of
have
the most
pillars,
boxy
and then
temples,
there's
probably.
doors. I told you it's a box, guys.
Yeah.
It's a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very unique.
And it's a beautiful box, right? It's pretty.
It is
It's a beautiful box, but
It's a beautiful box.
but it just makes it hard because and I think too, like even if I stood where I think I wasn't standing straight on to things, and so even if I was standing at ever so slight of an angle, then I got some of that distortion going on. So I've just been staring at temple box pictures all day and my head's spinning. And I wondered what you do
It's tricky.
with the boxes.
Yeah, and if you're picky like me, it can drive you crazy. Sometimes you just have to learn to let things go and just know you're photographing something the way it is, and you have no control, and you just have to go with it.
Yes.
Anybody
Exactly.
else? Awesome, guys. You guys rock. And thank you to Jacquelyn and Jennilyn. You guys are so awesome to give up your time for us tonight.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, I love doing these. I think they're so fun. When I went, I go to different conferences every year, not the years of the COVID. I can't even roll my eyes enough. But yeah, when the first year I went, my husband did a trade for some programming, so I got to go for free to IPPA, Intermountain Professional Photography Association conference, whatever. And I felt like such an idiot because I had just started and I'm looking at all these amazing photographers and I'm hearing them speak and I don't even know these words. I'm just like, you, blah, blah, blah. But somebody pulled me aside and said, if you want to learn the most from about composition and lighting, and go watch image critique, go watch image judging. And we went and watched, and I remember they'd pull an image up on the screen and I'd be like, that's so beautiful. And one of the critics, one of the judges was like, this is a crap. And I was like, what? Which is also why I've never submitted one of my images to IPPA.
You don't want that harsh of a critique.
This is crap. I was like, no, it's so pretty. But then they explain why this is crap. And then you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, that's a good point. And that's a good point. And yeah, Rachel, so many foreign terms. But then the next year when I went again, I didn't want to go for free. I wanted to go on my own merits and I wanted to go as an equal. And I had learned so much in that year from the first time that I went, and I felt like I was one of the group and I had paid for my own way so then I could have lunch, because they would eat lunch and I just be like in the back and just be like, it's okay, I don't want to, it was a free, but I only got the conference, I didn't get the food, so I just in the back, I'm like,
Oh,
eating my granola bar, it's okay.
oh, sad Amber.
Yeah. But yeah, ever since then, like I go every single year, and every time I go, I watch image critique, because you learn so much from watching a judge tear apart somebody else's images. I want to do mine. Maybe next time after COVID. I signed up, we're doing a retreat right now. It's going on right now, but it's online. It's the Newborn Milky Way retreat, but it's online and there's no print judging. But when they open it back up, I will submit an image. Maybe, probably not.
Good for you.
I'm too much of a sissy.
Does Utah have a professional photography association?
Yeah, it's IPPA, so it's Intermountain. So I think it covers Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, California. I don't know.
Idaho has its own. It's
and they
IPA.
used to be really like, they would do their conferences at the Salt Lake Airport Conference Center-y thing, because I would just drive home every night because I'm only an hour away, and I had gotten it for free, so I didn't have a hotel room, and so I would just drive home every night, wake up in the morning, go back down in the morning. but they haven't had a conference in a long time. So now I go WPPI, Baby Summit, Georgia, Tennessee, Vegas. They're so much fun. So much fun. I spend so much money. One year I bought so many props at the trade show that I left all my clothes. I was like, well, I can buy more clothes in Brigham. So I could just see the maid like coming in to clean my room, and she was like, I don't even know what to do with all this. I had some really cute props.
That's hilarious, Amber.
Who needs clothes?
No.
I flew home naked. It was fine.
You should have just layered your clothes on, like had like 5 layers on.
Is it Pollyanna that did that? The movie Pollyanna, and she's like wearing all of her clothes, or am I getting my old movies mixed up? Oh, well, thank you guys. And we'll say goodnight. I'm going to post this to my YouTube channel. My videographer, I'm always like, and we'll post this to our course and he's like, it's not ours, it's yours. I'm like, but you're here.
But
and
you're here.
When we're
You're
videoing, like
production.
Aaron and Isaac are right there. So I'm always like, and we'll post it to ours. He's like, no, it's yours. It's like, no, it's ours. Sounds much less scary. But I'll post it to my YouTube channel. So that you can see it later and review it over and over and over and over and over again on my channel. And if you want to come and like it, I'm 9 away. We set a goal to hit 200 followers, which sounds so lame. Because when you Google how many followers makes you a YouTuber, it's 10,000.
No kidding, really.
So close.
Almost there.
But yeah, we set a goal to be at 200 by February 12th, and I'm at 191. So if you're super bored,
there you go. All right. Well, now you'll be at 192.
Woohoo! And then you can watch Allison's questions. That's our newest little series. So I will talk to everybody later. Thank you, Jacquelyn. Thank you, Jennilyn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, you guys.